I've never seen anything like the emotion from any commentator around those tragedies as I'm watching about a foreign tragedy. I think that's odd.
This, I think, maybe gets to the heart in a less personal way about what's going on here largely in terms of our national conversation. So here they are talking about how the emotions over the last month, in Tucker's estimation, have been dysregulated.
There's also, I can't help but notice that your views reflect mine, I would say pretty much. I'm an American. I was horrified by what happened on October 7th. I think it was pretty strange. I don't really understand how it happened, but innocents died, and that's awful. And I hated watching that. And I feel so sorry for the Israelis who were killed. However, there's an emotional response that is disproportionate, I think, on the part of some commentators. I mean, our country's being invaded right now by millions of young men whose identities we don't know, who probably don't even like America, and they're now living here. Over 100,000 Americans die every year of fentanyl. I've known a couple. Those are real tragedies. I've never seen anything like the emotion from any commentator around those tragedies as I'm watching about a foreign tragedy. I think that's odd.
Okay, first off, I have to address one thing up top, which is that this is not purely a foreign tragedy. We think that probably 20 Americans were killed and that there are probably 12 Americans that are still hostages right now. I don't see any emotion from them about that. That may, look, I will grant the longest leash possible. Maybe that was a total oversight on Tucker's part right there. Maybe, I don't know. But I want to hit a couple points here. A few things can be true at once. Tucker is not wrong that as Americans, we should always prioritize America's interests first before any nation. When he talks about conservative commentators, I don't think he's talking about me specifically, but do I talk about the border virtually every day on this show and connect that to the drug problem and what it's doing to our inner cities and everything else? I have no doubt that Ben Shapiro is doing that as well, and Glenn Beck is doing that as well, and everything else. So so that's just one little piece here. But Americans ought to be able to be pro-America first and understand that there are people who slightly emote differently and prioritize differently and all of those things. And by the way, we have candidates who address these things a little bit differently, right? We have Trump who addresses it in one way, and DeSantis who addresses it in one way, and Nikki Haley who addresses it in one way. But the point is that we should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, right? And of course, you should be able to be concerned about our border and want our border. I mean, how many times on this show have I said that we should be closing down our border and we should not be letting any of these people in, and we have to figure out who's here and we're going to have to get rid of some of them and all of those things. And we all know, I know people who have died of fentanyl. I know someone who's hooked on fentanyl right now. So everyone is concerned about these things. It is possible that the sheer barbarity of the events and the videos that we've shown you here and some of the ones that you've seen elsewhere or that I don't even want to show you would jar some people into being more emotional. It is also possible that Jews in general might be, generally speaking, a little more thin-skinned when there's a massive attack against them, because Jews have been pogromed and holocausted and everything else across the globe. So Jews might be a little more sensitive to that. But it is also true that we should all care about not only the American citizens over there, but that there is a civilizational battle happening right now, right? What have I been saying for weeks now? If you think that when they're done with the Jews over there, they're going to magically be done with the Jews in London, but it's not the Jews, that's the point, that they're going to magically be done with all the Western values in London and Paris and Belgium and Montreal and everywhere else. Well, of course they're not going to be. It is just going to be the beginning. So when they're going for the Jews now, it is the whites next. And I think I have offered a pretty fair defense of white people on this show, a well-deserved defense, because of course the Jews are just the first line in what actually is going on here. So then it harkens to the question, does this mean that America should get involved militarily and send our troops across the Middle East and everything else? No, I'm not for that. I'm actually not for that. What I am for is that we can offer a lot of diplomatic support. We can offer a certain amount of weapons as needed to understand, to beat an evil terrorist organization the same way we defeated ISIS, and nobody said that we shouldn't be allowed to. We might want to do something like that.